Hello, everyone. Thank you all so much for coming to the Dolby House for our programming this afternoon. I'm Leshawnda Larkin. I'm head of marketing at Dolby. I call it like it's a place of goodness around from a visual and audio perspective. And so I hope afterwards that you're able to go and check out the experiences that we have downstairs. So I'm going to go ahead and get this panel started. And so I'm going to do some introductions. All right. So first, I'm going to invite Detavio Samuels to join us, who is the CEO of Revolt TV. So can't stop, won't stop. Next, I will invite Lindsay Cookson to join, who is the VP of 360 Marketing, otherwise known as my boss. She's amazing. Yeah. And last but not least, we have Martin Ekechukwu, who is the Chief Strategy Officer at A-Frames Brands. Yes. And so I want to just say thank you to everyone for being here. I really want to kind of show a diverse perspective. When you're in marketing, how do you grow brands? And so we have an example, of established company. We have a company that really delves into hip hop. And then we have a startup company that's really diving into celebrities. So I'm actually going to ask you all to kind of give a brief, background about who you are. So we're going to start with Detavio.
Good afternoon. How's everybody feeling today? Yeah, can I, one more time, just give a little more energy. How y'all feeling? Hey, there we go. My name is Detavio Samuels. I have the honor and privilege of leading a company called Revolt. Revolt, founded by Sean Diddy Combs in 2013. We are the #1 platform for hip hop around the world. We are the home for the biggest conversations in the culture. When I say the culture, I mean Black culture. But rather than listening to me talk about it, I think there's a video. And so if you guys just want to roll the video, you can see who we are and what we do.
I'm on my way to Time Warner Cable as we speak to close Time Warner deal.
Revolt TV.
I am Revolt.
Revolt. This is Revolt.
Revolt.
Revolt Nation.
The greatest asset within the Black community is our ability to influence. It's our influence.
I can't let nobody hold me back. 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 I can't let nobody hold me back.
To see representation, to see our people, to see things that are recognizable to us.
That the Black experience is not a monolith.
Oh, to be young, gifted, and Black.
When someone tells me I can't do something, I absolutely have to prove them wrong. It's like something clicks in my head. Okay, you said I couldn't do that? Watch.
The world needs a Black-owned media company that is empowering Black artists and creators to tell our stories.
All right, that's Revolt. And an interesting fact about Detavio is that he actually went to Stanford MBA program with Ray Dolby's son. So see that connection that's happening here? All right, so Lindsay.
Sure. Hi, everyone. I am very thankful to be with you guys today and with two such impressive folk up here. As Leshawnda mentioned, I'm the head of 360 Marketing at Dolby, which is partner, brand, and product marketing. I've been with Dolby for quite a while. We don't have a video for Dolby as an intro, but I think this space here is the intro. So if you haven't had a chance to experience it, I highly recommend. It's amazing. Dolby does such amazing things for sound. and imaging technology and bringing that to the world through the lens of creators, which is what we're here to talk about today. So I will pass along the introductions.
Awesome. So now, Martin, if you can kind of give a little bit background about what you do.
Happy to. First of all, I just want to say thank you, Leshawnda, for putting this together. I think that it's amazing to give us the space to talk about these topics. We've been friends a very, very long time. And I made her cry earlier, just to let you guys know. Leshawnda, just want to say publicly, opened up doors for me early on. It just shows what it means to reach back and to pull people up and then help them kind of move to the next direction. So that's that. That's one. But I also want to definitely big up my man right here. It's my man, my brother. We've been knowing each other for a long time, and we've been in this space and grinding and building and from like ever. And I'm just so proud of what he's done thus far. And there's just actually, this is the beginning for you, man. I already know that. So that being said, Martin Ekechukwu, I'm the Chief Strategy Officer for a company called A-Frame Brands. A-Frame Brands, we focus on solving problems for underrepresented, underserved groups by creating brands, products, and services, any solution that helps to fit that gap. We started off by building a solution for people that could potentially suffer from melanoma, because for people of color, there's a 4 times greater mortality for melanoma than it is for anyone with lighter skin. So we focus on darker skin tones. We built Proudly, which is a Gabrielle Union, Dwayne Wade brand, focused on kids of color under 5, focusing on eczema in those children. And then we also just launched a John Legend brand, which is a skincare and grooming line for all genders, focusing on putting moisture back into your skin, because we lose, as people of color, we lose moisture at a 5 times greater rate than anybody else. And so it was all about building something for those that do not have it, because ultimately there's a gap that has been existing in the market for such a long time, because the approach has been one size fits all, but that's not true anymore. So that being said, I'm going to stop there.
We partnered up with A-Frame, as an amazing company, and we said this is what we want our team to look like. We want it to look like the people that we're trying to make these products for, and that's what our team looks like.
I grew up believing that my melanin was beautiful. For most of my life, I didn't know my skin was at risk. I honestly didn't even know the type of care it needed.
As communities of color, we have always known what we have needed. We have unique needs that have literally never been centered nor met.
Everyone deserves to nurture and maintain the health and beauty of their skin.
Awesome. That's A-Frame. So I'm going to start off with an interesting fact. 48% of Americans follow influencers or celebrities on social media. So, the role of celebrities and creators, you cannot overlook. And it's interesting to see how it's changed over time. When I first started working in marketing way back when, we were working primarily with celebrities. So I worked on programs with Maroon 5, Bret Michaels. If there's any Poison fans, everybody's looking clueless, like, who is that man? And so back then, it was really just kind of this lane. And now you're really starting to see brands be very creative with how they really develop brand love. And so the question I have for each of you is, can you talk about how your respective company works with creators, celebrities, and culture?
Honestly, what we look for is authentic connections with the audience, and making sure that as we're developing a product line or developing a solution for a particular need that's out in the marketplace, then there's a very clear connection back to the talent that we're working with. Because what you want is an authentic relationship between the two. And trying to force fit a product and a brand with talent will ultimately lead to subpar results at the end of the day. Because the believability from all of us would be like, I don't believe he's really selling that. I don't really believe he's using that product. I don't really believe they're using that thing. It doesn't necessarily matter how hard you try, how much paid you put behind it. The believability is not truly there. So our focus has always been ensuring that the research that we do around our connection between talent and brand and solution actually matches perfectly, so that when we're talking to you, you're like, oh, that makes sense. Let me pick that up tomorrow, because duh, of course they're using it. But if all of a sudden, someone out there is trying to hawk a beauty line, like some recent celebrities that recently launched a beauty line, not mine, obviously. But you'll see that the pushback there because of the believability factor.
Yeah, we're relatively similar. So as a company, we believe that industries get a lot of things right. So those are the zigs, and then we try to figure out the places where we are going to break from industry convention, those zags. And so for us, you know, the way that most people in the storytelling media business tell stories is they go out and they find stories, and then they go pick and find talent to plop into the story. We operate much more like a music label, even having like A&Rs. And so what we do is we find those voices that are meaningful, find those voices that deserve to be amplified, and then we basically bring them into the studio and we develop shows with them. So our entire content strategy, the entire way that we are making all of the stories that we create is a very talent-driven strategy and a very talent-driven model, which is different than what most of the industry is doing. And then just like Martin is saying, like once you bring them into the studio and you are now co-creating, you now have work that they love and work that they believe in and work that is authentic to who they are, and that's what allows it to the work to be powerful and potent.
Yeah, I think Dolby, similar to what you guys are talking about, it's really about the authenticity. And for us, everything that we do starts with creators. You know, it is the why that we have the technology that we have. It's about enabling creators to tell their stories authentically and truthfully. That's what we focus on. That's why we exist. And it's also how we build our technologies too. So from the very beginning, as you mentioned, we're working with them to understand, is this going to resonate? Is this going to help in your workflow? Is this going to be a technology that's going to help you do something different with your music, with your film, with your TV show, whatever it is that creator is looking to build. So it's both the why and it's also the how we actually create our products. We focus a lot on that. And then we celebrate them. So we bring them to, you know, we help bring their new content, their new song, their new album to market, and we help bring, you know, that story to life. So we really start with the creators you mentioned. It's the focus for us, and it's really the core of what we're trying to do.
You know, but kind of like playing off of you two a little bit, the one thing I always found fascinating is like when you give the power to the talent, allow them to really do what they do best. Make them creative director of something, make them lead consumer facing whatever it might be. You see the best benefit that comes out of them because they feel like they're in their space. All the brands that I've seen have like, and I think I remember Tyler, the creator, is actually a creative director on other brands as well. You see the beautiful results that come from that experience, that comes out of that brand experience, if you allow the creator to really hop in and truly take ownership of it.
Yeah, I'm actually, and you got,
Keep
I know
going.
you're gonna ask, you got questions, but I'm actually happy I know how he works, and it was beautiful just to hear the way that you were talking about how Dolby works, because so often I think brands want to create this like slave-master relationship, right? It's like, I am the master, and I am telling you what I need you to do. Everything from the work that you're doing to the copy on your post to all of that stuff. And that is the thing that needs to be broken. It needs to be about co-creation. It needs to be about partnership. It needs to be about collaboration. And so just lovely to hear that all three of us are playing the game in a very similar way.
Oh, this is lovely. All right. So you talk about some of the benefits and working, you know, in this space, but you know, how do you go, what's the process that you go through to kind of identify who you want to work with? Because there's a fine balance, because if you pick one person, they can take you down a path that you might not want to go on. So just, it would be great to kind of talk about, you know, how do you go about picking? I mean, way back when, you know, we would kind of go by these scores and look at, from a celebrity perspective, how they ranked, how were they well received with consumers, and we kind of use that. But now everything is moving so fast, and, you know, anybody really can be a creator, a celebrity, you know, as long as you have a phone. So what is the process that you go through to kind of figure out who to work with?
Yeah, so I'll talk about it from two different ways. One, which is our cheat code, which is Sean Combs. And then the other one, which is our responsibility, which is being an arbiter of culture. And so from a Sean Combs perspective, it's our cheat code. Like, a lot of people want to make it all science. I think, you know, for us, there's a lot of art and science, and I just happen to have The man who sits at the top is one of the best selectors of talent with a proven track record for decades of seeing those things early. And so in that world, it's about not just who is the most popular, not who just has the largest following, but who has real engagement, who can really move the crowds, who, when they say show up, shows up. One of the best examples that we have is we have a show called Carisha Please. And again, we don't play by a lot of industry rules. So most of the industry plays by appointment viewing. Watch this show every Tuesday at 7 p.m. I can't tell you when the next Carisha Please is about to launch. So how can I tell my audience? I can't. But 24 hours before each episode, Carisha goes loud, we go loud, Puff goes loud, and we are delivering millions, 4 million, 5 million views on every single episode. Numbers that people on primetime cable are definitely not doing. And that's all because we found the person. Maybe she has 5 million followers, but her audience, when she says show up, they show up and they show up in masses. And so it's about identifying who has that type of power, that type of pull with the culture. And then I think on the other side of it is the responsibility. For us as the #1 platform in hip hop, there's a responsibility to say, not just here are the people who are already popping, but here are the people who deserve to pop. Here are the people who need to pop. Here are the people who can move culture forward if they have the right platform and if they have the right microphone. And so those are the two ways that we're looking at it. So from an A&R perspective, selecting the people who can move the crowds and move the masses, and from our cultural arbiter perspective, who are the voices that the world needs to hear more of.
Yeah, so we don't have a Puff, inside of our portfolio companies. We have a D-Wade, however, but no, listen, actually, I'm going to steal what you just said about art and science, because it is art and science in a really big way. The data only tells you so much, but the feeling and the goosebump test tells you the rest. The way that we go about identifying the right talent, we actually go through a whole onslaught of conversations, vibe checks, because everybody that comes into our space that wants to develop a brand or a product, they're like, I want to do what Jessica Alba did. I want to have an honest company and take an IPO and be a billionaire overnight. But the requirement is that, like Jessica Alba, you got to put your career aside. You got to put your acting aside and really double down on what you're doing. And acting becomes a side job, becomes a hobby for you while you're building this brand from the ground up. So what we do, and when we kind of get into the process of, and ensuring that the problem is very front and center, that the talent reps understand what problem we're trying to solve, then they bring us all the talent that could fall in that affinity. Once we do the research to kind of narrow that list, we then have our vibe check conversations, and then I bring in some heavy hitters. I bring in the folks that launched Aviation Gin, that launched Skims, and launched everything else, and really have a really heart-to-heart conversation with them. Like, listen, if you're not ready to do this thing, please stop wasting our time. And that's really easy for us, because we say no more than we say yes. So once we have that conversation with the folks that have made $1 billion, and they're like, oh, I didn't know the commitment was going to be like that, then all of a sudden that changes. But the ones that stay behind, the Naomis, the Dwayne Wades, the Gabrielles, and the John invited me, CVS, Walmart to his home to sit down and talk about his line. And then he showed up to the Walmart shareholders meeting. And then he showed up to the CVS stores and CVS clothing. And he was behind the cash register. It's like, that's the commitment that you want from talent that wants to see something successful. So we look for those key things, and that's largely art. Like, it really is an art, because you have to be like, can he really, will he really? I don't know, maybe we don't do this one. If we have any sort of side feeling about it, we don't do it.
Yeah, for Dolby, it's the authenticity as a brand that's established. I think it's about knowing who you are and who you're trying to communicate, and then finding connection with creators or creatives and celebrity. Because, as you mentioned before, people can sniff out when it doesn't feel right. So we look for folks that are really interested in technology, are wanting to kind of play with it in terms of how they want to do their craft. We look for folks that are interested in being in cutting-edge innovators. We look for folks that are interested in crossing boundaries. Dolby's in a bunch of different types of content genres, types of entertainment. So someone that's multi-hyphenate, that can be gaming, that can be music, that can be TV, that really resonates with us, because we think that represents our brand. So it's about knowing your values, knowing what you're trying to communicate, finding someone that can authentically advocate for you, and be a part of that conversation. And then, of course, we want to make sure we're representative of who we're trying to communicate with. So we look for diversity of backgrounds, we look for diversity of experiences from aspiring to already established professionals. You know, you mentioned who deserves to be heard, and I think that's what we try to do as well. We want to make sure that we're seeking those folks out who can really make a difference and who are really going to be a valuable partner for Dolby, and the partnership has to be mutual. It has to be mutually beneficial for everybody involved.
Because there's an investment that comes along with it, right? It's like for us, we play the VC role in that we're placing bets on which talent are going to make this brand pop, and how much investment we're going to put in. We can put $3 million into this one, $5 million into this one, $2 million into that one. So for us, it's a function of time, money, energy, effort, and really capital. Because ultimately, if we don't deliver on something back to our shareholders and our equity stakeholders on the cap table, we don't necessarily get funding for the next one. For you, it's going to be like time, energy, and effort. And for you, it's the same thing. You're going to go down this rabbit hole of doing a show and talent and everything else. And if it doesn't pop, you're like, got to start over again. And that takes away from the momentum you're trying to build. So it's a really, the art is I'm probably underselling the art part of it, in all honesty.
Do you think we want to show the Jacob Collier as an example?
Yeah, sure. I can do a little intro. So I did bring a video. I wouldn't let you guys not be able to see something. We've worked with a number of different creatives. I'm going to show a piece from one of them, Jacob Collier. So he's a Grammy-winning artist and also a multi-instrumentalist. So I don't know if you guys have heard of him, but he rose to fame doing YouTube kind of split screen clips of him performing across a number of different instruments. He's amazingly talented and really cool. We brought him into the studio to play with Dolby Atmos. So this is a result of that. What I love about this is I think it represents how we like to do our marketing, which is, you mentioned this before, just let the creatives speak. They are far more, amazingly articulate around their work. They're able to communicate with a level of passion and emotion and depth that is truly incredible. So this is him. It's unscripted. It's how he talks about his experience doing music in Dolby Atmos.
Music is such a human thing. It doesn't matter where you come from or what language you speak. And I think there is something really joyous about that reminds us of how much we have in common rather than the things that set us apart. First time ever experiencing my music in Dolby Atmos. It's just fully immersive. You're completely taken into this other world. And so the moment where we first heard that was a goosebump moment for sure.
Dude. That's an adventure. It's such an experience.
I think of it as axes. More axes are available than I'm used to. Just way more dimension, a whole different level of clarity within each detail, and also play with the relationships between sounds in more colourful ways. You're able to carve out room for one sound or another sound, and you can hear so much more than you would normally hear in a traditional sort of recording, writing environment. So with this kind of space, there's just no limit, because you can not only go, but you can go up and over and all these things, and it makes me smile, it makes me happy, it makes me engage, it makes me tune in. You're able to bring life into music in a whole new way. It's going to change the game for me, I think.
Awesome.
Thanks. So what I love about that is, again, unscripted, just him, talking about his experience. But it also taught us, Dolby, a lot about how we could articulate it. He talks about it as an experience. He talks about it as a destination. Interestingly enough, it's become a way that I've heard a lot of creatives. We also did a partnership with Lizzo when we were launching music, and one of my favorite quotes from an interview with her that we put into a piece of content was music is a destination. And that idea of Dolby and music being a destination, it also inspired this destination here. So it's just amazing what you can learn when you let people kind of communicate authentically and hear what they have to say, rather than trying to sort of feed something in that might feel like it's not what they would have shared authentically.
So you all raised kind of an interesting point of, Detavio, you've mentioned about this co-creation process, but how do you all kind of manage the balance of the brand message with the celebrity? Because that can be challenging. I worked on a program where a well-known celebrity was constantly calling the CEO, trying to make changes, here and there. And And so, I love the whole co-creation point, but it gets to a point where you do have to make sure that the brand message doesn't get lost. So we'd just love to kind of hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I think. Oh wait, I have to pause for 4 seconds. One of my head of publicity is here, and she always makes sure that I pause before I talk. So let me do that real quick. Okay, am I good now? Okay. So first of all, the reality is when you're dealing with talent, and talent is talent. They are not corporate. They are not, CMOs. They're not the people who are VPs of anything. They are talent, and you have to treat talent like talent and understand what's going to come along with it. I think, for me, we deal with hip hop, and hip hop by definition means we are operating on our own terms. And so for me, it's like you have to know who you're getting in bed with. And if you decide to get in bed with them, you have to be willing to go along for the ride. If you know that Sean Combs is known for disrupting every category that he's ever touched and that he is a provocative, then don't come partner with him if you're just trying to be quiet and sit on the sidelines, right? And so I think it's a big part of it, and some of it is maybe that art that we've been talking about, but it's not just alignment of values, it's about truly understanding who they are and not expecting them to change or be different just because they're partnering with you. One of my favorite examples is we have this thing called the Revolt Summit, which is information and education for the next generation to become the next power players. And when COVID happened and we had to take it virtual, we had a panel with Game. And Game, what you want people to do when they turn on Zoom screen is be in a nice, cool, calm place, camera nicely set up, great pictures, great lighting. Game came out, shirt off at the swimming pool. You know what I mean? And he was basically like, look, y'all either gonna take me like this or you're not gonna take me. And so I think for me, that's a big part of it. It's like, you either have to take them as they are or don't take them. That would be my answer.
Ditto. No, but really that's, and I talk about this a lot of time with my colleagues, that you take talent for exactly who they are. They're talent, and so as a result, expect them to behave like talent. What we do to try to mitigate that risk is that we, in the development of everything that we're doing as a brand and a product and a company, we bring them along for the ride to where they're making decisions on every single point. The name, the messaging, the approach, the audience, the consumer, the strategy, all of it they touch. And so as a result of them touching it all, when we come back to it, we're making smaller adjustments. Oh, you know what? We should really do this on social, do that on social. It's fine. But our broader strategy, broader messaging, broader everything is pretty much done. But I'm forcing talent to come in. Now, trust me, not all talent wants to be part of this process at all. Some talent, and there's some talent will name nameless, that I have to literally pull into a meeting. No, you cannot send your proxy. No, you cannot send your person. No, you cannot. No, you have to show up. It's actually obligation. You have an obligation to show up as a fiduciary, responsible obligator for the brand. But if that doesn't happen, it kind of is what it is. But if you build them into the process, you can at least mitigate some of that agita. I said agita, right? Is that, I got it right? Okay. And I did not pause, I'm sorry. I really meant to, though. I took that cue. I was like, man, it just hit me now. I should have paused.
So I know we've talked a lot about creators and celebrities, but just wanted to kind of maybe talk a little bit about culture too, because, especially this year with the 50th anniversary of hip hop, we just kind of love your thoughts on, and whoever wants to answer, but I'm probably pointing it towards Detavio just because I know hip hop is such a huge part of Revolt. Just trying to find that balance of making sure you don't feel like you're using the culture to kind of get ahead. And so we'd just love to kind of hear that, the role of hip hop with Revolt.
Okay.
Sorry, PR.
Yeah, there's two ways I want to go. One way is the culture vulture approach, which is, I have such a violent reaction to people who do not take the culture that I believe in, the culture that I love, the culture that I am committed to, the culture that has built so many multi-billion-dollar industries, that they do not hold that culture sacred. If you step into the lane, then you got to step into the lane holding that culture as sacred as I do. And then you can start to think about, how do I partner with it? And how do I work with it? And how do I interact with it? But if you don't have that level of respect, if you don't hold that level of, I keep using the word like sacredness, I don't know if that's the right word, then like I don't even want to see you touch the culture. That's one. Two, the way that you do that is that you are always looking for ways to amplify the culture. You are always looking for ways to elevate the culture. You are not looking for ways to steal. So many so many industries in this country have been built off the backs of Black culture and Black people. And the 50th anniversary is not your opportunity to do that again. You know what I mean? I feel so passionate about it. Okay, I'm trying to figure, where is the other place that I want to go? How do we want brands to work with people during this kind of 50th anniversary of hip hop? I want people to celebrate it. I want people to recognize it for its greatness. I want people to recognize it for what it has done and what it is giving. I want people to join hands with the culture. As opposed to there's somebody who says like this, like a car. You can either drive, you're either driving with the culture, you're in the passenger seat kind of amplifying the culture, but what you don't want to be is sucking wind from the culture and just stealing. And the last thing that I'll say about it is like always giving thanks and pointing back to the culture. And so a great example of that is we just saw Beyonce, who, when she won her Grammy, for Renaissance, she closes out her speech by saying, and thank you to the LGBTQ community for creating this music that I just drafted off of. And so for me, it's like recognize where you are pulling from, recognize where you are partnering with, and always point back and give love to those people. That's what so many people get wrong. It's like they want to pretend that they created it. It's the Kim Kardashian or whatever the Kardashian like box braids example. You guys remember when she came out with things and everybody was loving them and she called them box braids? No, like give love to Black women who have been doing that since the beginning of time. Give love to the people who were using those braids as maps to escape and get away out of slavery. Like give love, point back to the people from which you are stealing from or borrowing from in all times. I don't know if that was the answer that you were looking for, if I even answered the question, but that's the answer that I had. Sorry.
I mean, listen, my point of view, you have to kind of understand my background a little bit. I'm Nigerian by birth, born in Nigeria, raised in Czech Republic, moved to the United States. So for me, Black culture is the Black diaspora culture, right? Bringing everything together. And, the way I look at it as Black people are not monolithic, and approaching them as a monolithic being and a species is unfair. Because if you think of Black people and you think music and sports, that's unfair. We are incredible leaders of industry, leaders in multiple categories, from medicine to technology, whatever it is, but yet we keep on getting put into one particular space. So I look at culture as the ability to really broaden the definition and broaden the approach. So as brands are speaking to us, it's not always going to be from the position of, and while I love hip hop to tears, and that Detavio already covered this, I'm covering the edges, I'm covering the fringes. So my thing is, there are so many intellectual, amazing people of color around the country that are doing incredible things, and we get stuck as being as though we behave in the same way. Speak to us in the way that we wish to be spoken to. Approach us in the way that in a way of respect, and putting us in first and foremost, understanding that our love and our things that we're passionate about are truly broad, and go after passion points that are really bring me in versus just trying to use music and hip hop to help. It's hip hop, it's music. I'm gonna attach myself to that particular thing, and Black people are gonna come. It's like, I'm not gonna come if you're not doing the work to bring in all of Black culture.
Yeah, one more thing. Make sure that if you are going to play, and Martin said a lot of it, I just think I want to say it in a different way, which is that you are reinvesting and investing in the culture. There's going to be so many ways that people can play in hip hop without dollars touching the Black community. Like, don't do that. Like, make sure that you are investing in Black-owned media, Black storytellers, Black creators. Like, put the power and the resources in the hands of the people who come from inside of the community, give them the opportunity to control our own narrative. That's been the problem for the last 600 years, is that we haven't ever been able to control our own narrative. And so don't borrow and go try to steal it and do it in a cheap way. Like, come to the people who are creating it every single day.
No, and it's just interesting because when I think about Dolby, what I love is that the creators that we work with, like, we want them to be passionate about the products that we provide. We don't want you to talk about it if you're not using it. And so I think it's just important that we want to make sure that we maintain being authentic and true and honest about things. So,
and also being transparent, right? I think the transparency is real. Being able to say, because we're not stupid. So it's like, if the track record thus far has been, subpar or just barely there, be like, we've not done all the work, but we will, right? The acknowledgement that the work has not been done is actually just enough for us to be able to have hope. Because as Black people, we are a forgiving people, incredibly forgiving. So the ability to say they're trying is enough for us sometimes to be okay, but just not just to brush it under the rug and be like, don't look over here, look over here. It's not enough. So the acknowledgement is also important for us too.
All right, so switching gears a little bit, just wondering if you all, think about some examples in the marketplace of some brands that you think they're doing a great job partnering, leveraging creators, celebrities, or culture to grow their brand love. Any great examples you could think of?
Martin pointing at me, so I'll go first. I'll just use Carisha, but I'll walk you through the Carisha example. Carisha is an amazing example because nobody in the world would have ever given this Black woman a microphone. She's a part of a group called the City Girls, I think from Broward County, Miami. Like, it's a very specific flow and a very specific brand that they represent. And anybody who would have given them a microphone, even though nobody would have done it, would have tried to change everything about them. They would have put her through 6 months of speech talking classes or whatever and tried to turn her into a Black Barbara Walters instead of just handing her the microphone and letting this Black woman find her own way. And what's happened and the reason I love the Carisha story is because what's magical about it is the numbers and the results. So part of our strategy and why I think what we do is really incredible is we shoot once. Like, most of our shows are like talk show format. And so what that allows you to do is shoot once, right? And you can have a video expression, you can have an audio, meaning a podcast expression, and you can have a live events expression, right? And so again, Carisha, with no marketing, $0 in marketing, 24 hours, maybe 36 hours max warning. Every time she goes up, she is top 5 trending on Twitter. She is #1 in music podcasts on Apple. She is top 5 in Apple Podcasts globally, meaning ahead of Ben Shapiro, Rachel Maddow, all the people who you expect to be at the top. She's beating all of them. On YouTube, she's top 5 trending that weekend. One person with 5 million followers, but she's magic and she's gold. And I think that is the example that I love to talk about, because for me, from two perspectives, nobody else is doing that. Nobody else in media is dominating Twitter, YouTube, Apple at the same time. And I love that we're doing it with this young Black woman who the world would have never, ever given a shot to.
Yeah, I think what I like about partnering with creatives is there's just so many different ways to do it. You obviously gave examples of really the sort of investment around a particular creator, particular celebrity, and it really embodies that business. There are also ways that you can do it where it's, I was just thinking about Sonos. We're launching the Era downstairs, which is an amazing product. They actually hired Giles Martin to come and be their sound designer. So, you can actually reach out and embed folks like that into your company to really, to your point, sort of invest around that. So I think the diversity of ways in which you can engage is really interesting. It doesn't have to be a one-size-fits-all proposition, and it can vary. It can be a short-term relationship, or it can really be a long-term invested relationship, which I think is also a really fascinating way where we're seeing kind of best practice companies lean in.
My personal experience about brands that have done and are continuing doing a really good job is with the company called Doritos. So Doritos actually has invested with HBCUs. They've actually put a lot of money into the market to really help creators, entrepreneurs, really go after their passion points I worked on. So when I was running an agency several years ago, and George Floyd had just happened, Doritos came to us and said, listen, help us tell a story to be able to really express how people of color currently feel post the George Floyd murder. And so they gave us, as creators, they gave me the right to write a whole sketch and a whole idea around it. And we brought Luke James on board, and we told a story about, do you see us now? Do you hear us now? You love our culture, you love our people, you love all these things, you use us all the time. Now we are dying. Do you see us now? Do you see and feel our pain? And they really gave that up. They gave that moment up to us to write that completely. And that was like the first point that I saw them really creating something that had some long tail to it. Then they created a Changemakers platform. The Changemakers was all about putting the money back into the creative community and funding people that want to go after their creative dreams. Then they started creating a whole platform and program. So it was continuous investment back into the Black community. And that's like the one brand I know for a fact has really done it a very well. I already said this before, so this is good. So you're hearing it again. But you know how I feel about that, particularly because our agency, when I used to run it, was part of that story.
All right, so I'm going to turn it over to any Q&A. So,
for Leshawnda, you spoke about brand love. Can you tell us more?
You know, what are things that you can do to really get consumers, fans, to really love the brand? You know, we know that it's important to really target people, especially from a younger perspective, because you typically build your brand loyalty. You know, by the time you're 18, you pretty much are kind of locked into your brands. And so it's really important about how do you maintain that connection with consumers that throughout time, that they're still there, that there's love. It's interesting, there was a campaign, I think maybe, I don't know if it was with Coca-Cola, but it was basically kind of showing like throughout time and showing that Coke was always there. And so I think that's what I kind of was referencing from a brand love perspective, so.
Yeah, and I actually, if you'll let me connect the dots, because I think there's a massive connection between brand love and partnering with celebrities and influencers. And so if you think about it over time, I think that two things that brands have lost over the last several decades is meaningfulness and media. And meaningfulness is where I'll come to like the brand love piece, right? So Havas, I think it's Havas Media does this survey every year. And the answer and the result is always the same, which is that most consumers wouldn't care if 76% of brands disappeared. 76% of brands have zero brand love. But guess who they do love? They love Cardi B. Guess who they do love? They love Carisha. Guess who they do? You know what I mean? Guess who they do? So partnering with the right influencers allows you to borrow the equity from brands that they actually love and care about. The other piece of it is what brands have lost is media. Media used to have the attention economy and a chokehold, right? So decades ago, you were getting like 65 million households watching I Love Lucy. Now you can't get 65,000 people watching your show on television. But guess who's getting millions of views every time they post on Instagram? Guess who's getting millions of views every time they post on YouTube? And so I think that this idea that celebrities and influencers and trendsetters are powerful is because they help brands solve two very large problems, which is you have no brand love and meaning, and so you've got to find a way to extract that, and you also need a way to break through the clutter and the noise that's out there.
Or sometimes just get introduced, right? I think that's the other thing that, you know, that role can be played is just introduction to a new audience. So it might not necessarily be, someone that you've targeted before, or it could be an audience that you've had and you want to reinvest in. So I think that can be something that brands think about when they're considering celebrities or creatives to kind of play that bridge for them to get that introduction, right? You just want to get the coffee date, and then, you can build it from there.
Yeah, but what I've seen brands work one of two ways. One, you have the senior leadership on the brand side who are really passionate about this creator they want to work with. That might be completely counter to what the brand is supposed to have as far as an endorser or a partner, versus the brand team or the people that are really working in the day-to-day that'll say, you know, it's Carisha Please. And you're like, I don't like Carisha Please, but I don't care you don't like Carisha Please. She's who they want to listen to. So put yourself aside and allow the talent that the audience is really gravitating towards to really win. That's how you win. I think that what happens is that we put our personal loves and desires and whatever as brand leaders in the mix, instead of saying we're really stewards of the brand, making sure the audience has what they want at the end of the day. So put this person that, listen, not everyone loves Cardi B, but she sells millions of everything. So put her in the middle of it. And yes, she was gonna say some wild shit, but it's fine. You're still gonna get the result that you're looking for. Talent is talent.
You all spoke really powerfully about allowing creators to be themselves and to help influence and bring their expertise. What about in the opposite direction of assuring talent? You know, nowadays, thankfully, folks are really thinking about corporate responsibility and those kinds of things. How do you assure for them that you're also thinking about like what they're putting their name behind? I mean, I know some of that is kind of obvious, but really in some of those stickier moments when someone may have a genuine thing that they want to share with you all that goes beyond their role as an influencer or creator, is there room to listen to what they have to say, you know, if they're speaking for the community that you're serving? Just, you know, any examples around that?
Each of the brands at A-Frame Brands has a social impact organization within it. Like, we work with the John Legend Foundation, we work with Dwayne Wade Foundation, Naomi Osaka Foundation. That's part of our charge as in our partnership, because we're 50-50 joint venture owners of the brand, that we have to be involved in some sort of social impact approach. For example, on the Proudly brand, we just donated 1 million diapers to the diaper bank in Miami. Or was it, I'm sorry, 100,000. I want to, if Proudly's watching, as I say 1 million, she might actually call me and kill me. About 100,000 diapers what we gave in Miami as part of the charitable foundation that's built into it. But we build all those things in from the ground up. That's the benefit of having a startup. You can do things completely differently. You can hire diversely. So we are 90% people of color. We're 90% from underrepresented groups, where all of our brands are run by women of color. All women and women of color run each brand. So we're building it completely differently. So we have the ability to kind of do it the right way, quote unquote, the right way, the first way out. So that's already completely a commitment that we have to have, versus if you're an established brand and you still have to reverse engineer some of that into your established sort of like company foundation.
How do you identify talent in the Black community that maybe it's like that thing that somebody hasn't thought of, right? When you think the Black community, we're known for our music, we're known for our sports and things like that, but how do you identify, say, maybe hip hop is not somebody's passion, but they're a DJ, or they're good at rock, or they're good at writing, or you know, just identifying those traits in somebody to maybe give recognition to that. We're not just known for this. We can expand in other areas of the entertainment business in ways that people don't expect commonly with our culture.
Yeah, I don't know if I have an answer to how you do it, because I just think we do it all the time. I can give you examples of how we're doing it at Revolt. So one example is we did a branded content piece with Comcast. And what we did was reinvent a couple of Lucky Day songs. So we went to our audience. They all said they wanted to hear Lucky Day. So we basically set up, it was almost like if you could imagine like a hotel room, and you could see inside each one of the hotel rooms. And Lucky Day is doing his part of making the music. But then we had Black women who were ballerinas dancing to the music. Then we had the Black woman who is a harpist playing music. Then we had, you know, I don't know, maybe there was a Black woman who was a DJ. But so just trying to showcase, to your point, which is what Martin said earlier, which is that it's not that there is a Black community, it is that there are Black communities, and that we need to be showing all of them love and elevating and uplifting all of them. That same production was also all led by all Black women, right? So how are you making sure that you are elevating and lifting up the most marginalized of us? So I don't know how other people do it. I can just tell you that like we are very intentional and deliberate in doing it every single day, and trying to prove out to the world that, again, yeah, it's not a Black community. We are Black communities, and all of us deserve to be seen.
Pause. Now, honestly, to Detavio's point, the how is the kind of the X factor. What we try to do is make sure we give space to people that are talented, whatever that talent might be, that they're able to submit things to us on all the brands, right? Submit the A-frame, submit the Proudly, Kinlo, a loved one, and then we want to take a look at it because we want to, one, celebrate everyone that is unique and different, because my point earlier, we're not monolithic. Everyone has a particular point of view and a particular talent that may not fit within football, basketball, and music, right? So we would want to bring those people forward and want to celebrate them in content. So we also do that quite a bit. Like in a lot of the content that we shoot now, even for Kinlo, body diversity and skin tone diversity is very important to us, right? Your ability to protect your skin from the harmful rays of the sun could be if you're a lighter skin tone or darker skin tone. And also it shouldn't have to matter if you are a particular size or not. So we want to make sure to show the diversity there. And also as we're shooting more content, we want to show different career paths of different people and not allow them to just be one particular thing. So we try to bring everyone into the ecosystem as much as possible.
I think at Dolby, I think one thing that I really like is that we show a spectrum of creators. So it's not just about the people who are in front of the cameras. I mean, we work with some amazing artists like Victoria Monet, but we also focus on the people who are working behind the scenes. So the producers who might not necessarily get all of the glam, but also the mixing engineers, the recording engineers. So we try to work with different facets of our ecosystem because it's all important in the sake of developing, creativity.
Thank you for sharing that. And I agree. I think Dolby isn't really trying to identify the next, star, so to say. We're just trying to help, a number of creators find their voice and be able to share it. And so we put together programs, the Dolby Institute program. We have a number of folks in the room who run that program are really looking at, aspiring young folks that are just trying to kind of break into the business, and how do we help them, evolve their career? How do we help them in their craft? So I'd say, yes, we do work with amazing top talent, but we have a lot of programs and ways that we can broaden our reach and help the communities that are trying to kind of create beautiful art.
You know who I think did a pretty good job, so that I'm not using all Revolt examples? The Super Bowl. So, and I can't think of her name. I'm literally looking at her IG page, but did you guys see the young lady who was signing during Rihanna's performance? So they brought in a black woman who can sign. So it's accessibility. It's black women who I think are most marginalized. And then of course, she did what we always do, was she brought the sauce, right? And so highlighting people like that, I think, of course, what they were criticized for, and the only thing that they could have done better is that should have been on the main channel, and you shouldn't have had to go to a different channel to see her with her sauce. But I think whoever was behind it and saying we should have her do this, I think was an incredibly smart and intelligent decision. Justina Miles, thank you.
So I think we just maybe have time for one more question.
You guys have been in the branding space for a little bit. Curious to find out what your advice is to somebody looking to build their personal brand. If they've built a company and company has done well, they're now looking to, and they've carved out a niche for that business. How can they start to now build out their personal brand? Any thoughts on that?
Detavio is the king on personal branding, so I'm gonna let him answer this one.
Hire her. Her name is Ashley Barton, but you can't take any of my time away. Look, I'll tell you the story in two ways. So like, I'm one of those people who never wanted to be out there. Like, I'm the guy who always believed that like, the dopest job is to be the mob boss, and the mob boss is he's not in the restaurant eating with everybody else. My man is in the back in the kitchen eating pizza, and nobody sees him, but they're like calling all the shots, right? That's who I always wanted to be. I never wanted to have to be out in front of, like, on stages, out in front of the world. Two things have changed that. One, a mentor of mine who, after like a couple of years of being at Revolt, was like, bro, what are you doing? Like, gone are the days where CEOs get to sit in like the corner and hide. Like, it is 2022 or 2023, and you've got to be out there in front, because people are not just buying the company, they're buying you, and they can't buy you if you're hidden. So that's one. Two, I fundamentally believe that like we have entered into this world of like purpose-driven brands, where it is no longer good enough to just make good product. You have to make good product, be profitable, and for the audiences that you are trying to go after, you have to tell them that you are trying to help them create the world that they want to live in. And what that means to me is that as a CEO, it's almost like you're a politician and you're a campaign. Like, so that's why you hear me get on stage and you see me fight for black people and black. I don't care about anybody else. Like, I am campaigning for my people, pour money into my community, pour money into my culture, pour money. Like, that is my job. And that is the job. And it's not that I'm just saying it. Revolt, when you look at it, like our entire business model flushes that through our entire business model. That's why I'm going to talk about, on this one, we hired all black women to lead, or on this Frito-Lay campaign where we got, whatever money for production, we gave 91% of it to black creators. That, like, it's got to be flushed through your entire business model, but it is the job of the CEO, it is the job of the leader to be out there campaigning for the world that you want to help create for your audience. And I think if you start with that as a pillar, whether you want to be out in front of the camera or not, it gives you a different motivation, which is not just about me being out there. It's like, no, I'm out here fighting for my people. I'm out here fighting for my culture. And that's what makes me be willing to do what I didn't want to do, which was be the mob boss. And what I really wanted to do was be the mob boss in the back where they was like spinning pizza on their fingers.
The only add I would have to that is that, listen, at this point with personal branding, you have a decision to make. You either want to be a star in the trades or you're going to be a star with your friends, right? And if you're going to be a star with your trade, you want to be able to have a particular point of view where you have the fast companies, the Incs, and everybody else say, you have something interesting to say. You have a reason to say it, and you're doing something interesting that we want to make sure everyone ultimately goes after and listens and absorbs. Detavio's got a point of view because he's fighting for black culture. He's fighting for black media. He's fighting to make sure that we get our fair share in all rooms everywhere around the country. So figure out what that particular thing is, and then everything will cascade down because that point of view is really interesting and important. Like, if you want being the star and being a personal brand, it puts you out front, right? And sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's really treacherous. And you have to understand exactly where you're going into. So if you become a star with your friends, now it's obviously a star with the friends because we are an amazing friend group. So we're going to be like bigging him up no matter what. Whatever he does, like Detavio just tied his shoes. Oh my God, it's amazing. It's like, so all of us are literally like encouraging of each other. But start off by really finding that point of view and that personal brand around what you really want to accomplish as a person that's supporting a category. He's supporting a category that needs to grow and get its fair share. What are you going to be supporting to build versus just you being in front?
Get you some friends who can articulate your point of view better than you do. Thank you, Martin.
No, I think that was well said. I think it's, have a point of view. It's about, I also don't love the spotlight. Like Detavio, you have to just force yourself to do that in some way and surround yourself with people that will tell you the truth, that will help you be that person that you want to be, that will support you when things are going well and things are going not so well. So it's all about the company you keep in terms of those sorts of things. And that's why I'm up here. Thank you, Leshawnda.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Leshawnda.
You're welcome. So I just want to thank Martin, Lindsay, and Detavio for being here today. I feel so proud because I know that, you all just rose to the challenge. I so appreciate it. I've known Detavio and Martin a long time, and to see the evolution of their careers and where they are today. We first met Detavio. He was like this young 20-something. We were students at Duke University, and he was working in the office of the business school. And just to see where he's at right now, being this force of nature, I'm just so proud. And I just want to give a special shout out because I also have some more Duke University family that came out to support. And so I just want to say thank you all for coming and being here as well. So I just want to thank you all for your time, for being here. Greatly appreciate it. Make sure you check out the Dolby experience below and just have a great evening. So thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Leshawnda.
Thank you, Leshawnda.